welcome to our webinar, Rock Your Online Reputation with Eleni Sokos from Sokos Social. I would like to first thank our sponsors, LaPensi Plumbing, Pools and Air, and Veritas Pest Management. So Eleni, from here, it's all yours.
Without further ado, thanks for the introduction, Carrie. We've been proud chamber members for the better part of the 7 years that Sokos Social has been in business. And the chamber has been really, really important to our business strategy. I'm proud to serve on the board this year and help strengthen my impact through that organization and the leadership opportunities there. So I'm excited to present to y'all today. Like Carrie said, we build brands mostly online. We cover everything from social media to web development, all of the above. And a huge component of social media in 2021 is managing your reputation online across a variety of platforms. So whether that's Google My Business, Facebook, Yelp, so many different ways for your business to receive reviews and be talked about online. So I will share my screen and dive on in. So today what we will cover is why you should invest in your online reputation and the importance of review management, how to manage online reviews specifically, give you some suggestions for responding and how to handle negative reviews, positive reviews, all of the above. Game-changing responses, how you can create a really simple, easy-to-use formula that is very easy to remember and helps you craft responses that are actionable for your customers and important to making your first impression better. Finally, social listening tools. So there are a lot of paid options out there for managing your reputation, and a lot of different platforms for managing reviews. And we'll dive into just some of what the options are. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I'll just give you some sources that we recommend that our clients have experience with. So our first prompt for y'all today is kind of an icebreaker format, but since we can't communicate in the webinar format, I would love to hear what everyone's first AOL Instant Messenger screen name was. So some of us, maybe especially the younger folks in the room, remember when AIM was our prime form of communication. So basically the first social network. My dad set me up with an account when I was probably 8 years old, and he made my screen name. It was Greek Girl 2. Because apparently Greek Girl 1 was already taken. So I became Greek Girl 2. But I'm sure that there are really funny, people have some personality quirks in their AOL instant messages. So in a few minutes, when we get some of those submitted, we'll share with those. So why invest in your online reputation? Well, it used to be that your reviews were nice to have. In 2021, they're definitely make it or break it, especially when it comes to whether a consumer might invest and engage in your business. When we look at COVID-19, the information that reviews provide are closely examined by potential customers more than ever before. In the digital marketplace of 2021, reviews are the first deciding factor in moving forward or going with a competitor. So to stay competitive in this new digital marketplace, businesses must A, be really proactive in soliciting reviews, or B, remove obstacles that keep customers from soliciting reviews as well. So make that a frictionless experience. Most customers have read an online review in the last week. So it is very, very common, something that everyone does almost every day before they make buying decisions, where they're going to have lunch, where's the best place to buy XYZ, and we're doing it on a constant basis. So what's also important is that your online reviews are recent, up to date, and accurate. There's basically a lot of data that says almost everyone who buys things online, 94% of people have read a review in the last year. What's most important to note here is that, you can see these little graphs on the right side of your screen. Businesses with higher reviews are more likely to have higher spend averages. So customers are more likely to pay more to purchase from a business that they are confident has better product or better service. And they're also willing to travel farther. We're going to hear a lot about restaurants and hospitality in this presentation, because not only am I a huge foodie, we work with a lot of restaurants at Sokos Social. So I think of the fact that when, I'm looking for restaurants to visit in the drive market of the greater Tampa Bay region, I'm looking for those highest rated reviews, and I'll use Google Maps and Google Reviews to make like a Tampa day trip list of where I'm going to go to eat and check out new restaurants in Tampa or St. Pete or, down to Naples, kind of. And of course, when you're going on vacation too, people are willing to look up highly rated businesses and purchase from them. So super important. People are willing to go out of their way and spend more money with restaurants and businesses that are rated more highly. So just a few key takeaways from this segment. Our customers are reading more reviews, and they're reading them more consistently. Like we've said, reviews heavily influence customer decision making. People are looking for the quality of reviews, the quantity, and the business's response to reviews. So it's not just about the high rating, that 4.6 out of 5 stars. It's not just about the star rating. It's about the quality of the reviews that are received, how the business is proactive in responding to them. All of that says a lot about what the person might expect in the live experience as a customer. And if you don't, show your customers online and potential customers that you care about them and that you care about the quality of the product and your service, then they're going to find another business whose reviews more fully reflect the experience that they want to have. So COVID has, created a lot of opportunities to win customers online, but it's also created a whole new set of expectations and easier ways to lose customers online too. Keep that in mind. And like I said, local businesses need to make gathering reviews convenient, frictionless, and almost necessary, feeling like it's just part of the transaction, like the last step of the transaction. So again, how has COVID-19 impacted online reputation management? Customers are still looking for the same things that they were pre-COVID. They're looking for quality service. They're looking for the right price. They're looking for good customer service. But now they are more likely to look online or prioritize local businesses, which is huge. And of course, very important to all of us at the Chamber, supporting local businesses. So 33% of customers saying that they have found a new local business to support is really, really great. And just from a personal experience, I think I recognize personally that even though I was always committed to supporting, for example, independent restaurants versus chain, right now, to me, it's almost a non-negotiable. And I do recognize there are a lot of chain and franchise businesses in the area that are owned locally and supported locally, staffed locally, but the safety net's also wider for those franchise and chain businesses in many cases. So again, it's really important that local businesses know how to leverage the tools that exist for their success online. Now, who's writing these reviews? Are they all named Karen? I hope not. And I hate for all the Karens in the room. I know Karen Hodge is on the call. I think Karen from Sirius maybe is here too. So I hate that your name has kind of become a meme, but people are more likely to read reviews than they are to write them. It is somewhat uncommon. People, I would say I probably read 10 reviews a day, and I hardly ever write them either, unless it's a business or service that I really, really care about. And what are people more likely to share? Bad experiences, the negative ones. That's just the standard status quo, is that people will be more likely to share their negative experience, maybe because they think it helps make the business better or helps others not make the same decision in purchasing. But when it comes to the factors for someone to leave a positive review, the most important factors are the employee's attitude. So when they had a really great experience with an employee, they're more likely to write a positive review. The quality of the product or service is, of course, important, and the speed of the service is immensely important. You know, I understand that one of the huge, probably most difficult challenges facing businesses as we look to recover from COVID-19 relates to staffing and the workforce shortage. So, you know, as a customer, I'm always kind of thinking a little bit more graciously when it comes to my expectations of service. But unfortunately, all of our customers online aren't always acting with the same graciousness. So just keep that in mind, you know, when you're reading the reviews about your business. More than about 20% have never left a business review. Maybe, you know, this statistic here says that maybe, you know, 60% of customers will only leave one once every 3 months, so maybe 4 reviews a year. And that makes sense as far as how frequently I see them. One thing that I did want to mention is that when it comes to your phone and mobile devices, Google devices specifically, like I have an iPhone I use for personal use, but our office uses a Google Pixel. And that operating system prompts people to leave reviews based on their maps location. So I noticed that Google and Android phones specifically are delivering more reviews because they're prompting people based on having been in a specific location. It all depends on your privacy settings, of course, but that's just something to keep in mind, that the phones are actually prompting people to leave reviews. So what are some ways that you might collect online reviews or encourage the solicitation? Well, you can offer customers an incentive for leaving one. Now, it's important to be clear here. You can't solicit a positive review. That violates pretty much every term and condition that you've checked the box that you read, but probably didn't. But you can solicit reviews in general. So a lot of times you'll see people or businesses offering like a Visa gift card or AirPods or something in exchange for a Google review. Perfectly fine. You just can't ask for that review to be positive or negative. You can, you know, ask them face to face at the end of your transaction. Say, hey, you know, I hope you really had a great experience here. Please, would you mind leaving us a review? And you hope that they will. There's in-store signage that you can implement, and I strongly recommend that as a minimum. Depending on the type of transaction or the service you've provided, if you have a customer's email address after the service is rendered, I strongly recommend following up via email. A statistic I read reports that 36% of customers are likely to fulfill the ask when asked via email, but only 12% when they just see a sign asking about it. You can also empower your employees to leave great reviews. So one of our restaurant clients gives a $5 bonus gift card to servers every time that their name is mentioned in a review. So that's really cool. You know, you might even find that the servers will ask themselves, and especially in the restaurant industry, you know, they've got regulars and they're asking for those Google reviews. But you also want to make sure that the staff recognizes the importance of the reviews in terms of your overall business strategy. And the good service will always be memorable and have people reply. You can also share great reviews on social media and post the link to collect more. And you can also, I must have left these other ideas I was coming up with blank here, but one thing that we really, really love to do with our clients, especially with restaurants and service-based businesses, is either screenshot a review or translate that back into a graphic for social media with, 5 stars from Margie, 5 stars writing about how great this particular business experience was. And then when you post the graphic, whether it's a screenshot or this graphic you created, include the link to collect more on your preferred platform, which I strongly suggest Google as well. Bing is important too, Yelp, and we'll kind of get into some of the other platforms here in a minute, but Google is the most widely used and trusted platform for sure. So Net Promoter Score is an important concept in review management, of course. something that I just learned recently, I consider myself to be pretty enthusiastic about most things, but when I'm asked to provide, a scale of 1 to 10 rating of how I felt about XYZ product, I feel like I always go with 8. I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to seem too eager or something, but according to the Net Promoter Score Index, the only the only responses that really matter are those 9s and 10s, which is really interesting, like those raving fans. So that's what we're going to focus on. If you've never heard of what the Net Promoter Score is, it's a very high level marketing brand tool, but learning why this is important can help all small businesses. So a lot of review generation tools out there, depending on, again, what industry you're in, will solicit reviews and post those from a carefully selected pool of people to try to enhance your online reputation. What does that mean? Well, the way a lot of tools work is that they'll email you asking, on a scale of 0 to 10, how happy were you with this service? And if you hit 6 or under, you'll likely be delivered to an online form where you can submit, you can gather more information about what the customer didn't like, or, what went wrong with that experience. But if you select like 8 or above, you'll be delivered to Google, where you can write an actual live review. So that's one way to kind of read out some of those, negative reviews and not prompt those people to be posting on your platforms if they're not likely to refer you to a friend. So keep that in mind. Understanding your score is really important. The promoters are people who they're the raving fans. They'll shout about your product or service from the rooftops. But if most of your customers are 6 and below, you'll end up with a negative score. The detractors can have negative views. They can go to social media and complain. And if 80%, if most of your audience ends up in that 7 to 8 ratio, you actually end up with a 0. So that's what's really interesting, is that the 7s and 8s are basically like, they're passive. They're take it or leave it. So the Net Promoter Score can be very brutal, is the word that I've heard to describe it. It's a very kind of, you're either at one end of the spectrum or other, but it can be a really important tool for managing your reputation. One other thing I wanted to mention, in terms of the software, I mentioned like the software that will take people and put them into these buckets of how we're going to process their feedback. It can be really costly, and we'll get into that here shortly, but the benefits of investing in a tool for reputation management are huge. And, all of these sites want to promote themselves and the benefits that they offer and the customer satisfaction. Like, that's why they're in this business, right? But most of these platforms will tell you that 95% of the businesses see an ROI. So I think it's pretty clear, when you're really interested in, dissecting your online reputation and managing that really precisely, that you consider investing in a solution. So you've got all these reviews online. Now, what do you do with them? Are they positive? Are they negative? How does that affect your business going forward? Well, 56% of consumers say that responses to reviews from a business have changed their perspective from about that business. And you might be assuming that we're talking about a business replying positively, kindly, appropriately to a negative review, but it could go both ways. In my personal experience, I've been less than impressed with businesses' responses to reviews, and I have made the decision to no longer purchase from them because I felt like they didn't care about representing their brand online or delivering good customer service at every brand touch point. So that's just, an interesting statistic there. Your business response is going to offer insight into how much you care, how well, how responsible you are, how well you deliver service. And it's a good indicator of how your brand will treat you or your customer in person. So the positive reviews are easy to respond to, right? There's not too much that can go wrong there. Hey, thanks for the 5 stars, Bob. It's great. We appreciate it. I always recommend people be extremely specific with keywording when they're replying to reviews, especially for the positive, because your tools, and we'll look at this here shortly, but Google, specifically Yelp, all of those platforms index keywords. So if you're like, I use manager specials at the car wash I go to, that's the product. Reference that back in positive context, because it'll help manipulate the algorithm into understanding that there's favorability with that specific product. So you'll always want to, mention the specific products in your positive reviews, less so in the negative ones, because you don't want to accumulate the same sentiment for another product that everyone thinks is terrible. Like, oh, the calamari is so chewy. You don't want to say, we're sorry that you thought the calamari was chewy, because it's going to build further evidence for that point. So when it comes to replying to reviews, it's obviously important to reply to all of them, not just the even the good ones, but especially the negative ones. You can respond to reviews a few different ways. You can do it yourself manually through the platform. You can invest in the software that I've been talking about, or you can hire an agency like us to do that for you. In almost all of the above cases, you'll be presented with a form of like a dashboard technology that helps you aggregate the reviews, helps you listen and learn, what services are popular, what the customer sentiment is. And like I've said before, your response will show people that that the dialogue is open between your brand and your customers, that you're willing to troubleshoot their concerns of anyone who's not so happy. On the other hand, the negative reviews are what can often seem intimidating, a little scary. If you're a solopreneur, it can be difficult to hear negative reviews about your business or products. But the most important thing is that you don't take it personally. So that's really hard for people who care about what they're doing. And I get that. Just consider the fact that people on the other end of the screen don't often realize that they're talking to humans, which, is kind of scary to think about, but they're angry, maybe they're emotional, they're feeling very strongly about how the experience went. And you're just kind of the frontline response system. So it's difficult to be that receiving end of criticism in many times, but, business owners, we have to have thick skin, right? And respond appropriately. So the first thing I always suggest is just take a deep breath. It's always important to just respond quickly, for sure, because, that person is looking for an immediate or urgent response to their concern. But it doesn't have to be 2 minutes later. Take a deep breath, maybe give it 20 minutes to cool down, or whatever that looks like for you. It's really at this point about keeping your reputation intact and making sure that you're managing your own emotions with graciousness, and just focusing on being the bigger person there. We'll talk about this soon, but when it comes to reviews that are just totally off base, offensive, inappropriate, reference illegal action, like they're just not true, there are mechanisms in place where you can have those removed or hidden. They're not great solutions. They're not convenient, and often they don't work. So unless you really have like a case where it's, hate speech or something that's particularly vulgar, you won't expect to have just downright mean reviews removed from Google. And then, before we get into the actual formula and breaking this down, it's just, you're here on this webinar, so you're obviously motivated to improve your business practices and communicating with your customers. So if the negative feedback that you're hearing, touches on truth a little bit, on the operations side, you need to be prepared to act on the feedback that you received and make those necessary changes, and then tell the customer that that's what you're doing. Show that, demonstrate that. That's really, really important as far as, the tie-in between marketing and operations, which at Sokos Social is what we defined as your brand. And then finally, and this is kind of where I'll lead into our 4-step system, is just focus on the positive. No one ever got in trouble for being too nice. So just start every conversation, every interaction online with kindness and positivity, and what we call the aloha spirit of hospitality. So friendly yet formal. I always suggest to greet the customer by name if you have it, their name. That just creates a deeper connection to that person. It's really important that you seem approachable, even if you're madder than heck about whatever this person just said about you and your brand. When it comes to greetings, you'll obviously want to consider your brand tone, your voice, the personality, all of those brand attributes that are part of your company's identity. So greet the person first, and then you'll acknowledge that in some way, in their eyes, you and your company did not deliver on your mission statement or your value proposition. There was some element of your brand promise that was left unfulfilled. This is especially important if, again, thinking about our restaurants, if this was a special occasion, like a milestone, anniversary, birthday, or the guests were visiting from out of town, because in their eyes, you had one shot, and they might not ever come back to visit you. They're not local. It's more difficult to turn it around. So for whatever reason, if the experience was more significant, you definitely want to acknowledge that you missed the mark there. So whether the complaint that they have is valid or not, it's important that you just kind of put their hat on, step into their shoes of that person who just traded their money for your product or service, and that you misdelivered on their expectations in some way. Step 3, accept responsibility. The pre-law student in me always shies away from apologizing too much. We want to really focus on the poor experience that may have been delivered, and less so on the product itself being poor. Always kind of point to human error rather than, and taking ownership as the manager that, someone down the line failed, but take responsibility yourself. We never, ever, ever want to point fingers at staff. It's never the kitchen's fault. It's never the technician's fault. Just take that responsibility as the manager of the business, and no excuses. Just acknowledge and accept, that this happened. That should have not happened. I'm disappointed to hear. I'm sorry to hear. Using phrases like that helps navigate the responsibility level, and without actually, accepting that maybe there's something that could have been done differently. So that's a little bit of a tricky concept to navigate. It's just nuanced language that we recommend using. So we're disappointed to hear that you didn't have a good experience, that shouldn't have happened. Kind of staying with that language rather than sorry it sucked tonight, or we had a bad night, or whatever. Just own it and kind of move on. And then finally, most importantly, making amends is the final step in the solution. So how will you correct the issue to avoid it happening again? So like I said a few minutes ago, most review writers are doing it out of a sense of wanting to help the business improve. Like they should know that my experience was so terrible, or someone else should know so that they don't make the same mistake I did. Depending on the situation, we recommend offering the guest what we call like a turnaround experience. So whether that's, again, the easy example here is a restaurant, but maybe it's a haircut, maybe it's a massage, maybe it's a donor who didn't like the event that they purchased tickets to. How can you bring the conversation offline, get them on the phone, get them over email, get them off of the Google or whatever review platform? because first of all, there's not really an opportunity for dialogue in that space, but you want to have the opportunity to make that face-to-face personal interaction with your customer and learn more about their experience and try to help them understand it from your point of view too. If possible, like I said, if possible, to offer something to make it right, like a do-over. Strongly recommend that. I'd like to invite you back for another try. How about dinner for two on me? Let me know when you're coming in. I'd love to greet you in person, and thank you for the second chance. So just, a suggestion. I don't love to put that offer in print on Google or wherever, because I think it will, I think it would encourage people to maybe falsify reviews, and if they thought they would have something in exchange for that. But it's something that, again, that you can make that personal connection and deliver on that promise and try to make it right. Because really it's just about asking for the second opportunity to make things right. That's so important. And if someone is going to give you that second chance, it's really important that you don't miss on their expectations again. So when they come back in, of course, I'm sure you have excellent customer service practices in your organization, but you want to make sure that everything is top notch, that they're being seen and serviced in line with their expectations as much as possible. So a couple of the review management tools that we have a limited amount of experience with, and not a lot. These are Bird Eye and Yext are two tools, which are, software service providers that have subscription levels depending on how many locations you have, the level of need you have. They will do everything from, aggregate your reviews and provide a centralized dashboard to respond, but also they can manage every bit of information across the internet about your brand. So if you're a business whose service offerings or menu changes frequently, you can log into these dashboards and have just one place to update your menu all across the internet. So these tools can be really pricey, but they also deliver ROI when it comes to saving time, because this whole process can be very, very time consuming, but you get out what you put in for sure. So there was a question that came up before we hopped on about reviewing and flagging, removing and flagging reviews. So, and actually we just dealt with a situation yesterday about something for a client. The best way that you can have reviews pushed down, so to speak, is by burying negative reviews with positive reviews. So that's the most effective tool that I can suggest, or tactic that I can suggest to you. Like I said at the beginning, Google won't remove a review just because it's negative and you didn't like it. The point of reviews is to offer users unbiased feedback from other people's experiences. And if those experiences aren't good, then people should know about it. So when it comes to just being upset about that person's opinion, there's not a lot you can do about. If you can open up your Google My Business dashboard and find the review, and there's a little button right there that you can either respond or flag or whatever. So the process is pretty easy, but they have to be relevant and justifiable for requesting removal. So either A, it's not about your business at all, and somebody put their review on the wrong page. It's inappropriate or vulgar or illegal. Maybe it's a conflict of interest, like, a former staff member. You can't post a review of a competitor, writing, negative things about their business. So the competitor then could have that removed. And then impersonation too. You can't pretend to be someone else when you're writing the review. That's remove worthy. So the most effective situation that I can recommend to you is just to respond appropriately, follow our 4A's method. And you can ask the person to remove the review. That is always an option too. So let's say that you've responded, you've talked to the person on the phone because you provided the contact info and they followed up with you. You've brought them in and you've turned around their experience. They're now raving fans. They're giving you 9s on that Net Promoter Score. That's completely within your right to ask them to take down the review. I've also noticed that often people will just do it on their own accord. So when we have a client that brings in a customer for a second chance, often you'll see that they'll go back, especially with Yelp, because you can update a review on Yelp from one point in time to another, that they'll update their review and make it a favorable one. So that's something you can always ask for. And at the end of the day, in business, we're all human. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for what you'd like to see, which is that review come down. So at this time, we have a few minutes for questions. So I think there have been a couple submitted. I'm going to stop my share and let Carrie. Okay, cool. So there are a couple questions.
What platforms does the NPS come from?
So the NPS is more of an industry term. There are different tools that can generate that for you, but it's not necessarily something that you can, that you'd like subscribe to. But a lot of these social listening tools, like the ones I mentioned, Yext and Birdeye, they will provide you with that Net Promoter Score. If your organization has the funds to invest in like brand tracking tools, they'll provide you with a Net Promoter Score. So, a lot of, like, for example, I'm on the marketing committee for the Bishop Museum. When they went through their rebrand, they did focus groups and brand tracking and social listening, and then they were presented with the Net Promoter Score that actually also comes out of the people leaving the museum. There's like a little iPad with a survey. So the response that people submit, that helps generate their Net Promoter Score too.
All right, next question. Is it a good practice to explain the why in a negative review response, such as we were understaffed that night, and of course with an apology?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's definitely it's just tough and it's just dicey because, like we said, at the onset, that the biggest businesses are facing the most challenging times ever in history right now when it comes to staffing shortages. I think it is important to acknowledge it, but by admitting that, something went wrong like that, I just feel like it's questionable on whether or not that means that the person would likely come back, because, I don't think that they'd want to expect that, that experience to happen again. Like that, it's a balance of being human and owning up to, hey, like, yeah, we're super short staffed and really sucks right now. But also to kind of managing people's expectations of like, okay, well, if you are really understaffed, how are you managing that? Are you seating fewer tables? Are you going on a longer wait? So it is a dance, definitely, that you'd have to do. And, it's just a judgment call. So I don't think it's bad necessarily to say why certain things may not have gone according to expectations, but just, I would say, focus more on what you're doing about fixing that situation rather than trying to explain it away, if that makes sense. So social listening is kind of exactly what it sounds like. Tuning in to the channels where your brand is being heard online, whether that's through social media, other websites and applications that allow people to share content. Social media has obviously become, this isn't, while we do a lot with social media on our team, this isn't a presentation just about social media, but how to manage your reputation on the social channels is just as important as the review platforms. Customers want to trust brands that they can relate to and identify with and trust. So social media in general just creates a huge opportunity. It opens the door for new channels with increased interaction between brands and customers. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It can either be a huge opportunity, or if you do it incorrectly, it can crush you. But no pressure, right? So what is social listening? Essentially, it's a two-step process. The first step is monitoring, and that's just a very basic, you're subscribed to Google alerts, you're following the hashtags, you're looking at how many times your business is searched online. It's sort of the quantitative approach. And if you want to think about it, in terms of relationships between people, it's kind of like the difference between hearing someone and listening to them. There's a big difference there. I know I'm sometimes accused of just hearing and not listening, but it's really that second step is about the action that you take, the quality of the response that you apply, definitely qualitative versus quantitative. So when you're analyzing the information that you're hearing online into your business and applying it into your business strategy, that's social listening. It's looking beyond the numbers to consider the person's mood and what we call customer sentiment. So keeping tabs on social media sentiment is a huge part of social media listening. So it's not just about the number of hits on your hashtag or the number of times your brand gets mentioned, but understanding, why are they talking about you? Is it all positive? Is it negative? It's a two-way street. It looks forward and backward. So analyzing the information you collect and using it to guide strategy and decision making. Some of the benefits of social listening: you can engage with customers more authentically because you're actually tuned into the way they think and the way they feel. This can even apply to when people check in at your business location, and you're that quick and you're that on the fly with managing your social notifications. What can you do for them on the spot? There was a situation a few weeks ago where someone had commented on an Instagram post of one of our restaurant clients, and they said, "Oh, I can't wait to be at the pier next week." And so later we had replied, "Great, can't wait to see you. Hope your experience is great." And the person actually commented back, "Actually, it's awesome. I'm here right now." So the coolest thing ever was that we could offer, basically figure out where that person was in the restaurant and offer them, a free drink or a free dessert or something, just to really bring that social media connection into real life. The surprise and delight potential there is huge. It's basically limitless. That's what will keep people coming back and make your brand really memorable. You also can manage crises, whether it's related to a service or your product that is on the whole not delivering the way you want it to. You can certainly tune into that over social media. Tracking your competitors is a really important tactic here too. So not just listening to what people are saying about you, what are people saying about their competitors? That helps you understand where you fit into the marketplace. What are they up to in real time? Are they launching new products? Are they doing new marketing tactics? Are they getting raked over the coals in the media? There's a lot of opportunities there if you're also tuning into your competitors. Pain points, of course, are transactions taking too long? Like if you're a coffee shop and people are complaining that it takes too long, they're going to stop coming. And if lots of people think that, then you'll be all out of customers. So it's a really easy way, basically a gold mine for your team to hear customer feedback and make your solutions better. You can also identify influencers and those raving fans really easily. So the people who are giving you those 9s and 10s on the Net Promoter Score index, you'll find them online because they're the ones posting about your business. And how do you then leverage that? How do you deepen the connection with them? And how do you turn them into advocates for your brand and micro-influencers? That's all part of social media strategy for sure, but social listening is how you find those people. And then as we've said, businesses are facing a lot of challenges in 2021. One of them is being able to do things really quickly and nimbly. COVID proved that we can all pivot really fast. But when you're listening to feedback on social, you're able to take action more quickly because you have that feedback faster. than you would, let's say, from a traditional survey or, a focus group. And some of those listening opportunities have also been removed because of COVID in real life. So you're almost more dependent on social listening now than ever before. So what are the types of things that you should be tuned into? This is a really comprehensive list. Again, some of those tools will help you monitor and listen to this long list of search terms that you should be following along. So everything from your brand name and your social handles, product names, and even, people don't often think of this, but common misspellings are really, really important too. Competitors' brand names for sure, industry buzzwords, your slogan or tagline, the names of people in your company. So I will pull up a slide in a minute that will show you Anna Maria Oyster Bar. Most of us all know John Horn. John Horn's always in the news. So I have a Google alert specifically for John Horn and Amanda of like when they're featured in the press, because often I'm one of the last to hear sometimes. And I'm kind of keeping up with them since they're going a million miles an hour through Google Alerts, which is, if you don't know how to set up a Google alert, Google it. It's very easy. But yeah, you can put all of these keywords into Google Alerts and you'll get an email every time those are mentioned across the internet. So your campaign names are important too. Hashtags, you can follow certain hashtags on Instagram and other social channels. And then you can also just do it the old fashioned way and, give it a quick search as you have time. So speaking of Anna Maria Oyster Bar, even the misspellings is important. And I think I may have misspelled misspellings right there. But I was laughing because a friend posted something the other day complaining about how the most widely used location pin on Instagram for Anna Maria Island actually says Anna Marie Island, like not the right name, as we all know. So I thought to myself, I wonder if people are doing that with the Oyster Bar. And we've seen it in Google Analytics before, that people are typing in Anna Marie Oyster Bar. So now we follow this tag, and it's a good thing because there's some really great photographs that we can use for user-generated content on the wrong location pin and hashtag. So another way to listen socially, kind of on the DIY level, is using a tool that Facebook provides. In the Insights tab of Facebook, you can look at pages to watch. So no one, knows necessarily what pages that you're watching, but for AMOB, we have some local seafood restaurants selected that we're monitoring. And as you're looking, it's kind of ranked in total page likes. But what we find the most valuable metric here is this engagement this week. So as you can see, we need to step it up a little bit with what we're posting and talking about to get some better engagement this week, because engagement is most likely to manipulate the social media algorithm of all the metrics. So engagement is very important. And this helps you see where you shake out in terms of your competitors. So if you don't use this feature, I highly recommend that. It's just an easy to use free tool that you already have access to. And then finally, well, not finally, but this is an internal solution for our team. I'm going to show it to you in 2 screenshots here because it's a big spreadsheet. So every single one of our clients has this spreadsheet in our ecosystem where we link all of the social profiles, the search and map listings, industry affiliation profiles. So your Manatee Chamber profile, for example, if they're involved with like a destination marketing organization or a specific industry network, it's all linked. Industry specific profiles here too. So this is really helpful to create for your business because it provides like one source for you to go ahead and like update all of your other about information, all of your content that's out there. It's just a simple, easy to use checklist, kind of doing it the old fashioned way. Again, those tools like Yext and Birdeye will automate this all for you. But if you're kind of scrappy and wanting to DIY, You can make a simple spreadsheet. And then we also log like when the last time was that we updated and verified this. We try to check on these monthly. It just kind of depends on what's happening. And of course, what our clients are subscribed to in terms of the service level with us. But for the most part, on a monthly or quarterly basis, we're checking these over just to make sure everything's accurate. And then internally, we have a few documents that we create that help us manage our clients' brands. Our fact sheet just has, everything from contact information to mission statement, boilerplate, key contact, brand style guide. You've probably seen that too, but it helps us manage, what are the right colors and fonts and, the language that we should be using when we are doing things socially for marketing. And then our documentation sheet internally for us, we use that to just, it's like all encrypted and password protected, but we use it to store passwords. And then of course in an online vault too. But so you're getting a little peek behind the curtain here with us. And then this is one of my favorite sections, this operational change checklist. Like this is a really easy way to say, if this, then that. So if your hours change, here's all the things that you need to update. So you need to update the website, Facebook, Google, Yelp, Apple Maps. Maybe there's certain affiliation partners that have your hours. If some products change or you win a new award. So this is a helpful checklist that we use internally to manage all of our information points. Again, with the AMOP, because I know that they don't mind sharing learning opportunities for people. So when it comes to Facebook specifically, you're going to want to make sure that all of this, all this contact information and about your business information is as comprehensive and thorough as possible. Include, contact information. What are people, think about what people are looking for most quickly. What are the most frequently asked questions to your inbox? So, and just try to give those responses right in the about us. They don't need to know the whole, maybe they might like to go to get the whole brand story, but maybe not. They're probably just looking for information. So providing that information very quickly and easily accessible is important. So that's the left side. You're seeing the back end of our Facebook About page. On the right side of your screen, this is a screenshot from Google Analytics or from Google My Business. And I wanted to mention this specifically because it shows that keyword indexing that I mentioned earlier. So 58 recent reviews are talking about fish and chips. 51 are talking about food and service, 27 talking about grouper, to go 14, which is important. In the post-COVID world, takeout service is really important. So you can use these keywords for to search, social listening. What are people saying about those fish and chips or the grouper? And your customers will too. They'll use that feature to help them understand like what is the can't miss item at my business. So that's auto-generated by Google, and that's very helpful. Another restaurant client of ours, Popey's Place, dissecting what their Google My Business profile looks like. It's kind of screenshots. It's a very long and skinny listing alongside maps. So it's just in different panels here, but so total number of views per month are shown. Obviously you have a few extra tools on the editor end. What can be added? I think we're looking at it from the editor side. So adding a post to Google My Business is really important too. Depending on the client, we're adding posts to Google My Business almost maybe weekly, maybe monthly, just depending, but Google will prioritize the businesses and organizations that use its features the most. The social networks and the apps have put a lot of energy into building out these platforms that we all spend probably way too much time on. To keep us spending time there, they're constantly adding new features. And in turn, they are prioritizing the businesses that offer or that maximize the use of those built-in features. So Google wants you to make posts. Instagram wants you to make reels and stories. And they're prioritizing the businesses that do so in the algorithms. So the reviews, like I said earlier, I love taking a screenshot of a review and using it as social media content. So like this one here from Micah is perfect. Like I would screenshot that right there and make that a post, because it's not only a great review, but they've included photographs. And anything uploaded to Google becomes copyright of Google. And you don't have to necessarily ask for permission because they posted it, but it's easy social content, and it's letting someone else do the talking about how great your business is, which is certainly valuable. And then finally, Google also pulls in results from the web. So those are really important to know what is indexing on your listing. And check those on your Google profile, click through those links to make sure that it's representing your business the way you want it to be. And if you can change anything, obviously do that. It's not always the case. Like Restaurant G is probably just a restaurant aggregator. I've never even heard of that one. There's so many. But these other profiles are really important. The social listings will often pull up here too. So one other feature that's not pictured here, but I just wanted to mention, you may have seen, is the question and answer feature within Google. This is interesting because as a business owner, we want those questions to come right to us so we can respond appropriately. But often they're being pushed to anyone who's left a review recently. So, so people can, customers, like other customers from the public, can reply to your, to the question that's asked by another customer, which can be dicey because maybe they're not providing the most accurate information. You'll definitely want to chime in when you can and just say, hey, speaking on behalf of the business, this is the right answer. But just keep in mind that question and answer feature is user sourced. What else? So just in terms of a strategy for Google My Business, other than responding to reviews, which should happen as soon as possible, just some maintenance that you can do on your Google My Business profile that's really helpful. Like I said, make a post, update the cover photo as often as possible, add new photos. Sometimes maybe you haven't gotten to all those reviews, so just knock those out. A best practice could be storing them in a notes app on your phone, a selection of responses, and then you can kind of copy and paste them in there. Maybe so they're not the same, you have a few different options. You'll also want to just confirm that the pin is accurate on Google Maps, that the location is actually where it's supposed to be. Not that changes too regularly, but there's so much data constantly being fed into Google Maps that it's just important to just kind of make sure, because obviously when people get lost, that's a bad thing. And then finally, you can add an offer. So you can add like a discount code or, a free this if you do that. Google likes that too. So consider adding an offer to your page when possible.
Let's get to some questions. Can I see the keyword on my Google page on a phone?
Yeah, you should be able to. So that's one other thing I maybe didn't cover, but Google has a great app for managing your business. It's called My Business. So download that to your phone, you log in through your Google profile, and I know that it's possible to see the keyword index because that's also a search feature. So you should be able to see what keywords are automatically indexing from your for your listing from your phone. Almost all of the features should be the same. Google and the big platforms at this point have learned that people are managing businesses remotely, kind of on the fly. So almost all of the same features should be present from mobile to desktop, just generally speaking.
Is there any easy way to have customers leave a Google review via phone?
They don't, so people don't have to have a Gmail account. I believe that they do have to have a Google account. What can be achieved there is like you can actually, like if you are still on AOL or another platform, anything out there, you can register that an email address with Google. That's a good question, actually. I wish I knew the answer for that. I'll get back to you directly on that, Tiffany, whether people have to actually have a Google account to leave a Google review. And definitely people can leave a review via phone. It's very easy. It's connected to Maps, which most people have on their phones already, Google Maps. And then there's a link too. So you can send people the link right to leave a review on your Google page. You can send them that in a text message, in a social post like we talked about. But it's really, really easy to do from the phone. And that's what you want. You want to encourage people to do it quickly from their phone as much as possible.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Eleni. That was extremely interesting. And I'm super excited to get a copy of that spreadsheet.
For sure.
I'd also like to thank our sponsors again, Lepensi Plumbing, Pools and Air, and Veritas Pest Management for helping us make this series a reality. So I hope you'll have a fantastic Wednesday. Any closing remarks, Eleni?
No, I think we're good. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate that. And I can't wait to see everyone live in person again soon.